Today on Top 5 Friday, I want to discuss the top 5 redundant fragrances in my collection. Welcome to J-ROYL, everyone. My name is James. This, of course, is Top 5 Friday. Every single Friday, I do a top 5 fragrance list. If this is your first time on this channel and you like fragrances, you like fitness, you like cool chats and stupid hats, then go ahead and subscribe. Redundant fragrances are fragrances that are redundant.
Boy, if you don't get
This top 5 list actually has 10 fragrances because I have 5 pairs of fragrances that are redundant. Now, what makes these fragrances redundant? They're very similar. They're so similar that I can't really justify having both of them, but I do. One thing I want to point out is I don't have any colognes on this list. There are fragrances that go out of their way to smell just like another fragrance, but I decided to omit those. My number 5 redundant fragrances are Iceman and Sun Essence by Mugler. These are the only flankers on this list. I try to avoid flankers for the most part just because if you're from the same fragrance house, especially the same line of fragrances, there will be similarities there. These are supposed to be a fresher take on the Amen line. They do have the signature patchouli in there, but they're more fresh. Iceman is a little more potent with the patchouli, while Sun Essence is softened with more dominant citrus notes. The reason these are both redundant is because Pure Energy perfected what these two tried to do. Pure Energy is the best of both worlds, and it has that really cool rubber flask that Amen is known for. So that's why these guys are on the list, although I'm really happy to have them anyway. At number 5, Iceman and Sun Essence. The number 4 redundant fragrances in my collection are Valentino Uomo Aqua and Dior Homme Sport 2012. Now, the reason I specified the year at which this came out is simple. The modern 2017 version of Dior Homme Sport, they got rid of the iris. The 2012 version still has it. And so does Valentino Uomo Aqua. These are both sporty, fresh takes on iris, but they're supported by beautiful citrus notes. I do love both of these fragrances individually, but you can't deny they're both citrusy iris fragrances. And really, the entire Valentino Uomo line resembles the Dior Homme line. But in my collection, these are the two that are most similar. So take what you will from that. At number 4, Uomo Aqua and Dior Homme Sport. My number 3 redundant fragrances in my collection, Dior Homme Eau for Men and Prada L'Homme. Yet another appearance from the Dior Homme line. Both fresh, light iris fragrances. But unlike the last two, it's not citrus dominated. What Dior Homme Eau did was introduce iris, but a light, fresh, airy version of the note of iris. Prada L'Homme gives you the same kind of thing. It's a very clean, safe, fresh iris fragrance. These two are remarkably similar. I've said it many, many times. They're not identical by any means. I would say Prada L'Homme is a little more powdery, while Dior Homme Eau just focuses on the iris. Both are great fragrances. Prada L'Homme gets a lot more hype just because, in my opinion, it's the new kid on the block. It's newer, so it's gonna have more attention on it. They're both great, but redundant. At number 3, Dior Homme Eau for Men and Prada L'Homme. My number 2 redundant fragrances in my collection are Versace Pour Homme and Chanel Allure Homme Sport. Not only are these two fragrances extremely similar, they're also extremely popular as well. A lot of people will have this kind of scent just because you can find these anywhere. I would say Versace Pour Homme is a little more simplistic and linear in its freshness, while Allure Homme Sport does develop into a sweet Tonka dry down that makes it a little bit creamier, a little bit more unique. But essentially, the scent profile is very, very similar. What I like about the Allure Homme Sport line is there's something for everyone. There's Cologne Sport if you want something even more fresh. There's Eau Extreme if you want something a little more sweet. But these two are probably the most similar. These fragrances are so redundant that I ended up giving this to my dad, and he's clearly gotten a lot of good use out of it. I kind of preferred this one, so every time I wanted to wear this kind of scent, why would I wear this? At number 2, Allure Homme Sport and Versace Pour Homme. And my number 1 redundant fragrances in my collection, Dior Sauvage and Prada L'Homme Rossa Carbon. While there's many fragrances that try and be Sauvage, Luna Rossa Carbon really let me down. I love the Luna Rossa line of fragrances to death. They're all extremely cool and relatively unique as well. But Carbon ended up being a watered down version of Sauvage. While some people view that as its strength, the fact that it's maybe smoother, easier to wear, I just found myself never ever reaching for this. There are other Sauvage alternatives that are more interesting to me and perform better. Really, I only picked this up because of the bottle. I'm not saying it's a bad fragrance by any means. I'm just saying this is the most redundant fragrance in my entire collection. At number 1, Sauvage and Luna Rossa Carbon, specifically. Redundant fragrances are kind of disheartening to me just because I'm looking for a unique experience with each fragrance that I pull for. And if I'm reaching for something and then thinking, oh, it's kind of like that other fragrance, it sort of ruins it for me. A lot of these redundant fragrances I predominantly bought for the collection aspect of it. Try and trim some of that fat and get rid of some of those redundant fragrances. What are some fragrances that are too similar to justify owning both? I've touched on a few, but there are tons out there. And yeah, Uomo Intense, Dior Homme Intense. We got it, guys. All of our links to the Facebook group, Snapchat, and Instagram are down below. And if you like what you see, then go ahead and subscribe and like this video. It's been a pleasure, y'all. Peace.
Who's the hottest Uber driver you've ever had?
I never went to Uber driver.